What up, everybody? This is Stuart Knight. What up, everybody? This is Stuart Knight, author of the books Marginalizing White Supremacy, Poetic Visions, A Steep Mister for a Sister, and A Spirit the World Has Forgotten. And today, I want to talk about the principles, actually, the natural principles of relevant or relative, relative, I think it is. The relative and the absolute truth. Now, most people believe that truth is just truth, and that is true in a sense. As throughout all of nature, there are two truths, because there's duality in all things that are natural, whether it be masculine and feminine, day or night, cold or hot, dry or and wet. There's two truths to everything. Now, most people believe that the relative truth is in fact the absolute truth, and that's not the case. Like, you hear a lot of people nowadays running around talking about, I'm going to speak my truth. In essence, when people say that they're going to speak my truth, they're saying that they're going to tell the truth as they see it, from how they see it. And oftentimes, when people run around with that kind of idea, they delude themselves. They keep themselves further and further away from the truth, because when a greater truth actually comes to them, they're unwilling to accept it. I mean, you see that quite often in these online spaces when people come to certain discussions with certain types of positions. And then once those positions get questioned, challenged, and actually debunked, they refuse to change their minds. The relative truth is this. People run around today talking about, just say for instance, if somebody said, I can fly. That would be a relative truth to somebody. But the absolute truth would be, no, you can't if you're a human being and not a bird. You see that person with, I can fly, they go and jump their ass off a building and find out that they can't. In that moment, they have ran into the absolute truth. Now, the absolute truth is the truth that cannot be scrutinized, because it can be questioned, but it would always stand up against scrutiny. The absolute truth is I can't think of the exact word. It's unquestionable. It is because it is. Like this, say for instance, most people believe relatively the sun rises in the east, when as far as the absolute truth goes, no, the sun doesn't rise in the east. The earth spins at a certain speed, and once it spins at a certain point, this way and this way, once it gets to a certain point, the sun appears to be rising, when actually the sun is a fixed object. So the absolute truth is the truth as it should be. That's like people, relatively, they say, I was born the wrong gender. You hear a lot of that nowadays. I'm born the wrong gender. I'm not a man, I'm a woman. Or I'm not a woman, I'm a man. When they run into the absolute truth of the desire to have children and say, no, if you're a man, you cannot have kids in the fashion as a woman does. That's the absolute truth. Now, science and everything is trying to change that, but, that's another thing. But with the thing is that we as people, we should always strive to learn the absolute truth in all things that we choose to do and engage in. Therefore, we know that we are being our best selves in a sense, and we're living our lives in a fashion to where it kind of lessens the confusion that you see many people having today. Like, say for instance, a lot of people also going around saying, and this is really having a big effect on people, that the internet is not real. A lot of people tell themselves that, and that's a relative truth. No, the internet is not real. But the absolute truth behind that idea that the internet isn't real is that people use the internet to communicate with other people. So therefore, there's a sense of reality to it. Now, true enough, many of those people who may be in these internet spaces may be given a false image of who they are as people, or they're making up, some kind of image that they truly do not live themselves. Now, true enough, that is true. But the reality behind that, and the absolute truth behind that, is that people who engage in such falsehoods online, in the perceived non-real online spaces, are actually showing their true selves, their hidden selves, which, for people like me, just further clarifies how fake so many people are. And it's sad because, while people live these double lives, as I said, in all of nature, there are two things, the idea is to bring balance amongst yourself. The relative and the absolute truths are the real thing. What all people should do and seek to strive for is to find the absolute truth. Like even in my own life, there was a point a long time ago where I had my own relative truth. How people say nowadays, you could choose the paths you have in your life. And in an instance for me, I chose my path. Early on in life, I had a feeling that, I would never get married. I would never be with anybody, and I would never have any kids. And I said, no, I don't want that. I want to find somebody I can love, and I want to have me some kids. I'm going to have me a family. And time again, I was thinking to myself, or like how people say, the proverbial voice in your head. No, that's not for you. You're not going to have that. You're going to be alone. You're going to be alone. You're going to be a loner all your life. No, I'm going to make my choice and I'm going to do my thing. So, I did that. I came across a girl that, I liked her. She had some bad things about her, but I saw, maybe I can be a future with her. So I decided to get her pregnant, have a kid, knowing that, things weren't going to turn out, potentially weren't going to turn out right. And I was going to end up, raising that child on my own. That did happen, so, okay, well, everybody used to always, proclaim to me, you're doing so well with your daughter. Your daughter's so good. She's this, she's that. And I used to be like, yeah, but, the way the world is, it has such a strong influence on the minds of people and children that it might become a day where she just might go astray. And then, bam, that day came, and she went on about her way, and she began to engage in activities and social philosophies that I just couldn't agree with. And then, I was at that moment of truth for myself, where either I'm going to bend or break what I truly believed is the absolute truth, or I was just going to have to let it go and still live my absolute truth. I chose to let it go and live my absolute truth. And absolutely at this moment in my life, I am alone. I am where I had prophesized that potentially I would become, even though I tried, to find a good woman, get a good woman, and have a family and raise a kid. But such is life. Sometimes, your destiny is foretold, and the only thing you can do is make the right choices along the way to certify that you end up with the best variant of your soul that you can have. So maybe that, you won't be reincarnated. That's what I like to think of it as. But one thing's for certain, the relative and the absolute truths are a real thing. There are two truths, the relative truth being how you see the world, the absolute truth being how the world actually is and how it actually functions. Learn that, people. It'll make things a whole lot easier. Once again, this is Stuart Knight, author of the books Marginalizing White Supremacy, Poetic Visions, A Steep Mister for a Sister, and A Spirit the World Has Forgotten, which, I think I spoke on the absolute and relative truths in that book. I think I did. I don't know, but go ahead and check it out at Amazon.com, Lulu.com, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks. Peace.